For us, London Challenge Poverty Week was something very new. So I'm first ever anti-poverty support officer for Southall. So I took this very new role right from the scratch. During my research, I found out about 4 in 10 organization and about this event. So basically, we hosted all the 5 days, 5 themes, which was cost of living, housing and homelessness, poverty and health, poverty, discrimination and dignity, income and social security. And we did stick to the dates provided by 4 in 10. And we actually invited the speakers and councillors. We had opening done by Madam Mayor, and Maddie was there. Actually, she gave a flying visit to us to see how it's going. And I understand how busy it could be for 4 in 10 during that week, because as one organization, we were really, overwhelmed with the response we got, because this was first ever London Challenge Poverty Week in Ealing Borough, as per my understanding. So we had councillors, we had mayor involved, we had organizations, volunteer organizations, plus London Borough of Ealing involved in the conversation, and we had very positive discussion about poverty. Basically, we tried to change how people talk about poverty, and the main thing was network as well. So we managed to get shelter, St. Mungo's in our conversations, and the main highlight was the day. For us, the emotional thing was when it came to dignity and poverty, how people are discriminated and how their dignity is affected, and how poverty affects all this and takes the toll. So for us, it was, it is a very positive experience, and we're looking forward to host it again and do much better. So in our capacity, we did justice to the event. We tried our best, and there were food for the guests, something to talk about, and we did publish a report as well. And I sent a report to Maddie. And thank you so much for all your support, Catherine and Maddie, and all the guidance we received and the resources actually provided by 4 in 10 on the website and in person. And you guys were just a phone call or email away to support us. That's it. I can talk all day actually, but bearing in mind what time slot I've got, I would say thank you so much.
Oh, that's really helpful, Kamaljeet. I really enjoyed hearing your enthusiasm for, as somebody came to us the first time, and that you're keen to come back and get involved again this year, which I think is, a great endorsement. And you really did, do an awful lot of work. I think, we really appreciate all into it. And I'm glad that you feel that it was, a useful way for you to engage, particularly with the decision makers in your borough. And get that conversation going. So that's
we actually managed to network with all of them, and all the councillors were so happy that we actually brought them and the organisation under one roof on a table and let's talk about it. So that was our approach. So it worked well with us.
Fabulous. Yeah. And important that food was an element. I think there's a common theme to a lot of the activities that go on, that food is crucial for these things, to bringing people together.
Yes,
that's really
yes. You get to their heart.
Absolutely. We've also got Sarah here from Home Start London, who was going to talk about what they got up to as well during last year's Poverty Week, to give us a flavour of a different sort of approach. Sarah?
Yeah, hi, can you all hear me? Yeah. So I'm Sarah, and I work at Home Start London. I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager, and just Home Start London is made up of 12 local Home Starts, so we're spread across 24 different London boroughs, and our charity does life-changing work with families and children right across the capital. It's all based around the fact that, parenting can be magical and uplifting and rewarding, but it can also, it is undoubtedly one of the hardest jobs in the world, especially during those early years of raising a child. I think we all struggle at times, and life-changing events can happen to anyone. And when they do, it's Home Start's team of trained volunteers that are there ready to throw parents that are struggling a lifeline. And I guess the thing for us that really kind of connected us to London Challenge Poverty Week is the fact that our volunteers are really at the heart of our charity. They're on the front line and they see firsthand many of the issues that our families are facing and that their children are facing. So in September 2022, just before London Challenge Poverty Week, we decided to survey our families to find out how the cost of living crisis was affecting them. And obviously we've come from like 2 years of pandemic now straight into the cost of living crisis, and this was having a significant impact on our families. 127 parents responded to the survey across the capital, and the results were utterly devastating, really. And the findings really highlighted the heartbreaking reality of what our volunteers were witnessing on the ground. Families were struggling to cope, and this is just before we're kind of heading into the winter months, so there was lots of anxiety about what those winter months would bring. But they were struggling to cope amid spiraling living costs, and parents were being, what we saw is parents were being pushed to breaking point. And sadly, children were paying the price of this crisis, and it was evident that the consequences therefore were going to be severe and long lasting. So some of the things that we found from the research were around half of parents, and this is before, you know, it kind of escalated even further, but at this time around half of parents could no longer afford to pay their household bills. 1 in 4 were using food banks, like really, you know, quite shocking. 3 in 4 were expecting to need financial support to cover basic essentials such as food or heating or clothes. And children really were missing out. A lot of the work we do is around children and families interacting with their local communities, and we're kind of there, you know, for families that maybe don't have, you know, a family network. But because of the cost of living crisis, many parents were left feeling isolated because they couldn't afford to visit family and friends anymore, and they couldn't afford to invest in any kind of family activities. So I think generally the feeling overall was that these families felt really forgotten, with only 2% of parents agreeing that the government was doing enough to support them. And what was also clear from the research was that community organisations and local charities like ourselves and many others were playing a pivotal role, providing much needed critical support at a time when families needed it most. So what we were seeing all of these things all on the ground, and we also had a dramatic increase at that time in referrals. So for many local home starts across London, referral numbers were doubling if you compared them to the same period, you know, a year ago, the year before. And I think it was really evident to us that it was going to be a challenging winter for many families across London. And we wanted to ensure that we got support to as many of those families as possible. And we wanted to make a lot of noise so that everyone was aware of the tough winter ahead, and we wanted to give voice to our families. You know, the cost of living crisis was also impacting us as well. Our funding was being squeezed, and as lots of other charities are experiencing, their operating costs were rising. And we just felt that much more needed to be done. And participating in London Challenge Poverty Week, it really helped us to increase awareness externally, I think, of how the cost of living crisis was impacting families and children, specifically in London. And what we did is we developed, and this is kind of the bit of my role because the director was also heavily involved in this, but we developed a whole host of assets and we shared them across social media. So we did a big launch and we ran a news story on our website and had like a PDF with all of the key findings from the study. And we launched everything to coincide with London Challenge Poverty Week across all of our social media channels, using the hashtag LDN Challenge Poverty, and all of our local Home Start teams then shared and engaged with the content to help extend the reach of the campaign kind of even further. And it really helped us, I think, to maximise that outreach and the impact and gain engagement with key organisations and individuals that we wanted to engage with and speak to about this issue. Overall, I think we achieved something like 7,500 impressions, which is really, really good for us. And more importantly, we kind of kick-started important conversations. So I think for us, taking part in London Challenge Poverty Week was an incredibly positive experience. It really did help us to amplify the findings and raise awareness of poverty and the challenges being faced by many families in London. That's it.
Wonderful, thank you again, Sarah. That's. I feel like I'll pay you and Kamaljeet later for your ringing endorsement. But
well, it was really, really beneficial, I think, for everyone. Thank you.
Sure. That's really helpful to share, and it's nice to see it. It's a very different kind of engagement. You did some, conducted some research and then shared it through social media, and I suppose one of the main things we want to convey during this meeting is that getting involved is however suits you best is the way to do it. I think there's not one model for getting involved. Some organisations will want to conduct events, some might want to write something, some may want to contribute to blog. There really are as many ways to get involved as you can come up with and think of, and we're here to support you in that. But thank you to Sarah and Kamaljeet for just giving us a flavour of two of those. So I'll share again. Fabulous. And I just wanted to move on to think a little bit, moving on from reflecting on the successes we shared together last year, to thinking about the context that's likely to be the backdrop to this year's Poverty Week. Last year we were very much in the thick of the cost of living crisis, as Sarah was saying, and a number of the other activities really reflected that. But what we really know is that things certainly haven't got better, and I think the compounding impact of continued inflation, increasingly high interest rates, and the aftershocks really of all we've experienced in the last few years means that life is getting ever tougher for families and everyone living in London who are living on a low income. Things haven't improved as we might have hoped that they would. Trust for London have done some work recently looking to about the impact of the cost of living crisis on London and Londoners with their cost of living tracker, which I do recommend you have a good look around if you haven't yet, but showing that the impact of inflation on the lowest income households has been, in essentially, what would be a 24 increase in the price that households would need to spend if they were to buy the same goods and services as they did 3 years ago, 3 years to March 2020, which is absolutely huge figure when you think about people living on already very small margins. A 24% increase over 3 years is enormous, and it's really putting a lot of people who weren't already experiencing hardship, and those who already were really at the absolute extreme of their limits. So we expect that to be very much the sort of continued backdrop. The other really crucial part of the picture is thinking politically and about how we can press for change, is that we're approaching elections in 2024. So we'll have the London Assembly and mayoral elections taking place next May, and also quite possibly a general election too, although that isn't required to be in May, and it could be sort of at some later point during the year. But that is very much the backdrop, and it should mean that politicians are very much in listening mode and open to being our campaigning messages. So I think something we might want to think about is how we might sharpen our collective messages during Poverty Week. Is there something together that we could come around and ask to put to decision makers in the city? The back of my mind toying with the idea of whether we think we might want to come together with a joint letter, a joint ask to the mayoral candidates across all the parties about what we would want to see in terms of a more strategic approach to recognising and tackling poverty in the city. But that's something for discussion, and maybe others be interested in other people's views about whether this would be a good moment to do something like that. It's worth reminding ourselves, particularly from people who are new to Poverty Week, who may not have taken part before, what the aim of the week is. So we've always had three main aims. One is to increase the visibility of the reality of poverty in London, and that's very much by putting people with lived experience of poverty at the centre, and really wanting as far as possible for it to be people with lived experience at the centre of all the activity and the discussion and debate that's going on. The second aim is around encouraging positive debate and discussion about poverty. Positive seems a slightly strange word perhaps in this context. But I think what it's driving at is that this isn't a sort of opportunity for sort of dwelling on the sort of miserable reality, but actually kind of really showing that people have got positive ideas about what needs to change. There is hope, and that people have got very clear ideas about what the policies are that would address poverty, and that it is a really doable and achievable aim to work towards a poverty-free London. So that's the second aim, which leads into the third, which is about showing what needs to be done and calling collectively for the changes needed to end it. Poverty Week hasn't tended to have sort of some very clear campaign asks, because it aims to be a very broad umbrella campaign, and to allow people to campaign for their own campaign calls underneath its umbrella, and for us to support each other. Last year we did sort of create a new area on the Challenge Poverty Week website for people to be able to show what their campaigns were and ask people to take action, because I think people getting involved do want to have that, they are, we hope, sort of appalled by what they hear and statistics and the research that's put forward, but then they want to take steps to do something about it. So we have tried to sort of increasingly show people how they can take action, but that might be in a wide variety of ways. So what are some of the ways you can get involved? We've heard some already. This is a very short list of possibilities, but you might hold an open day or an open hour, or open morning. If you're an organisation that has a venue, has somewhere to invite people, you might write a blog or invite someone else to write a guest blog for your website. Time the launch of a new report or a project during the week, as we heard Sarah talking about Home.London's research. We've had people hold question time style events, inviting local politicians, a little bit along the lines of what Southall Community Alliance did. They invited local politicians to come in and discuss issues with them and their members. Sharing key messages on social media, using the wide sort of range of the arts to make clear points, making a film, dance, work of art. Or there might be individuals involved in the call who don't have an organisation to sort of work up an event with, but you might be interested in taking part and sharing your experiences, in which case if you contact us, we can try and work that into something else that's going on, or help you to speak to the media. So those are some of the ideas, but I hope you've all got a lot more. And the other thing you can do, which we have asked people to do, is to become one of our London Challenge Poverty Week champions. We began this initiative last year, and I think it worked well, and I'd like to build on it more. So we were looking for champions who can help us with the development and the planning of the week. The tiny staff team at 4 in 10 do some of the kind of less exciting back end updating the website, sort of type things, but we want this to be very much a shared campaign, and again led by people with lived experience of these issues, to help contribute to discussions about the messaging, offering honest feedback about the direction things are taking, about the themes we decide for the days, and so on. So that would be one aspect of it. The second would be to commit to sharing information about Poverty Week within your communities and your own networks, and encouraging them to get involved, either by putting on their own activities or participating in others. And we'd have those champions listed on the website as champions for Challenge Poverty Week. So if you're interested in that at all, then please do drop me a line. If you're, lots of you are, I'm sure, already acting informally as champions by speaking to get others involved, but if you'd like to have that formal role, then let me know. And we will absolutely, certainly if people are getting involved on an unwaged basis and giving their time to help us coordinate and organise, make sure we compensate you for that. Cool. And now another break from my voice. I'm going to ask Maddie, are you there? I'll leave the slide up.
Here. Yeah, I'm here.
Maddie, if you could just speak to the the scheme we've got to sort of help people with some of the financial costs of getting involved.
Yeah, of course. I've worked with quite a lot of you already, so this won't be massively new to many of you, but there are a few that this will sound quite an interesting and new feature. I'll give you a bit of backstory. Last year, we were very successful in asking and applying and getting some additional funding from Trust for London, who are able, in order to help support people that might be wanting to take part in activities in London Challenge Poverty Week that otherwise would not have been able to. We made 18 different amounts of money of additional support, between £500 and £1,000, and as Catherine's already suggested, that was used in a huge variety of different ways, whether conducting the research we've already heard about, buying events like we've already heard about, but also making films, art materials. We did some work about foraging for food. You'd be amazed the different varieties of ways that people can use these very small grants of money during London Challenge Poverty Week. And as the slide suggests, we've been lucky enough this year that we'll be able to offer the same scheme again. For those that weren't familiar with how the process worked, it's really, really straightforward. Those that are used to filling in complicated grants forms that take months and months, you'll be really pleased to hear this is not that at all. All we ask is that you just drop us an email to our central box, giving us an indication of the sort of thing you'd like to spend the money on, when it's going to be. We'll review it, and if it seems reasonable and it fits the criteria I'm about to come into, we'll come back and say, yep, here you go, here's the online form for giving us your bank details, and we'll transfer you the money. Now, the criteria that we're focusing on this year in particular is that we want it to focus on small organisations, so particularly people that might not be able to take part in Challenge Poverty Week at all, primarily for financial reasons, that might wish to do so. And we're also going to be small, particularly sweetly on events or pieces of research or social media campaigns or whatever that you want to do that focused on the lived experiences of from people. The applications, as you will see in the lovely pink form at the bottom, open in June. So please keep an eye out for messages from me, from Catherine, from Emily, and in particular, keep a track of the newsletter, because that's the first place you will hear about the fact that there's this potential big funding pot available to you. Well, I say big. It's approximately £15,000 usually these pots work out as, and we'll be able to give you funding approximately between 500 and 1,000. The probably average amount that we paid out was about 750 last time. We are really, really keen to spend this money, so we're asking you to come to us really, and we will be very happy if you come to us and ask for lots of money, and because it really makes a difference to how successful and wide-ranging Poverty Week's been. And last year, you could really see the impact that it did. I'm responsible for coordinating the responses that come in, and then as a team, we'll make sure that we're happy with the grants that we're prepared to make. But meanwhile, if you've got any questions or if you've got any ideas for an event that you might be interested in doing, but you're not sure, please give one of us a ring or an email or a quick chat, because we're happy to talk through it. But within reason, I'd be surprised if the answer was anything but no, because you're all wonderful people and the work you do is amazing. I think we're taking questions at the end, but please let me know if there's any burning questions anyone's got, particularly from the people that are new to this scheme.
Thanks, Maddie. That's brilliant. I can't see everyone now, so we might just hold some questions or pop them in the chat specifically about the financial awards. So we'll hold on to that for a second, and I will pass over to on our next slide. I'm going to ask Emily to talk a little bit about the other forms of support that we can offer to help people get involved.
Great. Hi all, I'm Emily. I'm the Research and Learning Officer at 4 and 10. So in addition to the financial support that we hope to offer many. We want to make sure that we offer support to everyone who needs it in different ways. So we've got a few different offers that we're planning to make. The first is we're organizing some training, and these might be some online events. We're working with superhighways to develop kind of some digital focused support. So that would be covering topics about using social media to highlight your event, or even to maybe run a campaign. And then some other training events around potentially different themes you might want to focus on, or different ways to collaborate. If you've got any questions or specific themes that you might want to be covered in training, feel free to send me an email, because I'm still in the process of finalizing that. In addition, we are offering one-to-one support. The slides, which I think we'll share, include the link, and it's also on the London Challenge Poverty Week website. There's a link that you can click and book in a one-to-one session with myself. And in these sessions, we can kind of meet you where you're at in terms of, if you're in the really early stages of brainstorming, we can talk through some different ideas, or I can give you a few examples of other organizations. If you're thinking about who your target audience might be, or several different groups that you'd like to reach out to, we can work through that together, whether that be different levels of government or different members of the public, that kind of thing. And then also, if you're interested in collaborating and you'd like to know other organizations taking part or potential partners, that would be a time to ask, and then I can help connect you up. Another way that we want to make sure to facilitate support is around networking. So if you're looking to connect with other organizations in your local area or across a theme, then again, reach out over email, and we can help, or book a session, and we can get an idea of who you might want to connect with. And if you want to actually plan an event or a campaign with them, then the earlier the better, to kind of get those conversations started. And then the final thing I'd say is around resources. So if you're planning on writing a blog or running an event, and you kind of like just some data around poverty in your area, specific on a certain area or issue, perhaps around housing or child poverty, things like that, feel free again to email, reach out, and I can kind of do a little fact sheet for you, just so that it might be helpful to have some stats that you can use in social media, or when you're promoting your event, inviting people out to kind of highlight what are the challenges that your local area or your particular organization is helping to address. I'm sure many of you will have a lot of that already, so I'm not presuming that you don't, but if there's any kind of new questions you're asking, please do get in touch, and I'm keen to offer what I can. And just a final note that we did this last year, and I think we're going to repeat it again, where after London Challenge Poverty Week is over, we held just a very short 1-hour event where we brought together organizations who participated. And so it's kind of a follow-up and a reflection. So it would be a chance for you to share how things went, and also kind of lessons learned, and also to feed back to us at 4 and 10 what we can do more in future years to kind of build momentum and better support you going forward. So that's a lot to take in, but the offers, it's not a limited time, it's up until London Challenge Poverty Week. So feel free to reach out when it might be helpful, and we'll help as best we can.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Emily. There we go. So just sort of thinking about next steps, as Emily says, now is the time to get thinking as early as possible, and be as creative as you can. I think for all of us, the more activities and the more people can take part, the better. So the other thing is to sort of see how you can reach out in your communities, and perhaps reach out to organisations who might when you work with, who may not have been involved before, and think about how they might be brought in too. Most importantly, just to keep in touch with us and let us know how your plans develop. this only really works if everyone comes together during the week and what you're doing is visible, and part of our role is to make sure that it is visible. In addition to us badgering you to use the right hashtags and so on, we want to know about it so we can help you promote it. So do let us know, and it will go on to our ever so complicated spreadsheet. And then do keep an eye, as Maddie was saying, on both the newsletter and the Challenge Poverty Week website for more details of the specifics of what we've been talking about training that might be available, and so on and so forth. Our details are there. Do be in touch with us as much or as little as you like, but let us know what's going on. And I will stop showing now. What I'd like to do with the sort of nearly 20 minutes or so we've got remaining is to just have some conversation, answer any questions you've got, thinking about collaboration in particular. I know Emily was talking about the reflection session we had, and I'm sure Diana won't mind me saying, but Diana was reflecting. Diana's been on the Challenge Poverty Week journey longer than I have, and from the very beginning, I think, really. And she was reflecting that, well, it's a fantastic thing that the week has grown and more organisations have got involved. We also want to kind of have those opportunities for people to work together and have a little bit more collaboration, and perhaps do some sort of joined up pieces of work, so that if you've got a term of an idea, even if it's only small, have the space and time to discuss it with others, and be able to people will say, oh yeah, I'd like to do that too, or yeah, that chimes with what I'm doing. So I know we haven't got terribly long, but if there are thoughts you're having, however off the wall or kind of very, very fledgling, share them in this space and see whether other people are interested in joining too. That's the first purpose of the discussion. The second, if there are things that you think we're missing that we might not have done yet, or that would be helpful to you, to let us know that as well. So I will throw it open, and Diana, Leslie is going to start us off. Thank you.
Yeah, just because so I'm with ATD Fourth World, Altogether Indignity Fourth World, and our members who live in poverty have already been preparing for this year. And what we have is an open invitation, because we've already got a venue that we're very happy to have, and a plan for creative workshops to prepare something that other people with lived experience of poverty in London might want to join us with. So we'll be doing our event on the Tuesday, 17th October between 5 and 8 p.m. in the afternoon. And the venue is at Amnesty International. They've got a beautiful center at New Inn Yard that they're happy to have us use. And so what we'll be doing there is a lot of different creative stuff. In past years, we did some poetry jams and we did a theater thing, and there's option for both a theater and poetry with this, but we're also thinking over the summer to organize some workshops for photography and video for people who've never had the opportunity to do that before, and then to display the photos on the 17th, or show videos that people have created over the summer. Yeah, a few different kinds of creative, and we'll definitely do a workshop on spoken word poetry as well. So those are all different things, and maybe a small theater workshop. Last year we did a kind of full-scale hour-and-a-half theater production, but I think this year, if there's a couple of people who are interested, there's a theater director who could help them kind of prepare a little scene to perform. So anybody, I'm putting my email in the chat. Anybody who's interested, who knows people who are interested, who wants to let them know, just get in touch with me. And so people of any age with lived experience of poverty are welcome to join in. We're particularly looking to connect with young people, I'd say anywhere between 16 and 25. We think it's a good opportunity to sort of broaden our network of young people, but really any age is very welcome.
Amazing. That sounds absolutely amazing, Diana. And really kind of, it was almost like we planned that. But I think that's exactly the sort of, collaboration that we will definitely think about, how we can support and connect you to groups who I know in the network I can already think would love to have that opportunity to take part. So let's have a good think about that. But yeah, I know Claire's on the call as well. And we're meeting Claire from London Youth is here And Emily and I have got a separate sort of meeting with her later on to think about how we can get more youth groups involved in Challenge Poverty Week this year. So it may be that through that discussion, some of those groups we might be able to kind of hook up with you as well. And so that's really exciting already. Does anyone else have thoughts about what they might be thinking of or want to share? Or
Catherine, could I just say something? It's Debbie from Keen London, and my colleague Kirsty's on the call as well. She's waving. We haven't actually discussed what we might do, but I know that we'd both like to get involved, and the rest of our team. We do work with young people with additional needs, so from the ages of 0 to 5 and then 5 to 11. And my mind is going in lots of different directions, but I would like to hear directly from them, you know, what is their lived experience of public, you know, particularly with the increased costs to living with a child with additional needs or disabilities and all of those things. We did run a cost of living survey for our families, and again, I think somebody's already said that it was really shocking to hear them say things like, I've stopped eating meals, and the next step is for my children not to eat enough meals in the day. So I think we'd like to get some of that feedback and really demonstrate how affected the families that we're dealing with are. But that's as much as I've got at the moment.
I'll just say where my brain was at, Debbie, and it was that we've talked internally about wanting to link up with some organisations such as Felix Project and any other organisations that might better help us respond to some of these challenges. And I know we've looked at how if there's surplus fresh food that we might better bring to our sessions, because we run every single Saturday in term time. So that's something we're talking about internally, whether it's something we could possibly launch in Poverty Week. But if there's anyone here that's from any of those organisations or is also looking to make those sort of links, then yeah, we'll be going down that path probably as well.
That sounds brilliant. I know. Oh, Vanessa, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I'm just so glad that this lady's touched on the SEN community. From the 2 coffee mornings we did as well, which I know I haven't sent Mandy the pictures and everything yet, but it was really successful, and Emily was there at one of them. And what I identified is a lot of the parents of the children of SEN, and me included, coming with lived experience, has got SEN too. You know, so it's right now, and I met a lady that she just got diagnosed with ADHD. Our eldest child is 22. Can you imagine how it's been the past 22 years, not knowing what's wrong with you? And then you got kids being diagnosed and you don't even know that you have to get the help too. And that is another cause of poverty, because if you don't know what's wrong with you, you can't get work. I'm blessing, I've got Mums on a Mission, but before this, I used to find myself in and out of jobs trying to make ends meet, and really I felt like I was going crazy. So I could tell you, based on my experience, my mum had SEN and poverty killed her. She committed suicide. Because if you got SEN and you can't take yourself and you get an eviction notice, for example, you don't know what to do. Instead of helping, you go into a crisis, and there's no one, as a mother, they're looking at you like you're not regulated, you're not good enough to have your kids. So right now, just come down to Barking Station, and there is so many people on the street right now. Just, you know, it's quite sad. So yeah, this is it. Anyone that wants to work with, that is working with SEN children, then you're definitely working with their parents, and their parents also want support. So this is what Mums on a Mission is here for. So we use box fit and peer advocacy to support those families as well. And we do coffee mornings, around the table meetings, bringing the council to them instead of them to the council. We try to bring people to the table, and they can have that space to get their help. So that's my way of doing things. So yeah.
Cool. I think you've articulated, Vanessa, really clearly that there's a really strong emergent theme, and it's something we'd already sort of picked up on, I think, through some of the coffee mornings we've run. I know Rochelle is here on the call from Marjorie Kinnan School, and we have Suchi from ESDEG over in Ealing as well. And we've, you know, in the conversations we've had really similar messaging. So I'm wondering if one action for us, Emily, is sort of from this call to kind of take away and think about whether we could invite some people who we know are interested in this particular issue about that intersection between SEND and the cost of raising a disabled child and the impact that has together. And maybe that's something, you know, there is a collaboration. It feels like there something quite important that we could do during Poverty Week. So we'll take that as way as action for us to convene that. I think the thing is, we can't, as the three of us, sort of kind of put on lots of events. But what I really hope we can do is bring together people who can work on these things together in small groups, because I think we're much stronger like that. So thanks, Vanessa, for that. It's really helpful.
Hi, can I just say thanks, Vanessa, for being so open and honest about your experiences. It's really, you know, obviously to come across and show your vulnerabilities and your life experiences. I really do appreciate that, because as Catherine said, I do support families and their children who come here to Marjorie Kinnan. It's a special needs school based in Felton. Where are you based in Barking?
We're based we're nationwide. We're in Yorkshire and Barking as well.
Okay, all right. Well,
we've got mums in Merton too, in South London, and we've got mums in South. We kind of help mums wherever they come, but services are mainly Barking and Halifax.
All right, okay, fine. So Catherine, I know we had a coffee morning, so then it's just kind of highlighting and pinpointing that these targeted kind of interventions, or I don't know, network meetings, there need to be more of those, because the conversations need to get bigger and bigger, just so that we can put the support, not diluting the fact that cost of living is affecting everybody, but I just know in my work that how it affects families with a child with SEND, and it's just more of more. So thank you.
Yeah, and saying that, Rochelle, sorry, now you got Vanessa. Once I start, it's very hard to get the top closed.
No, I'm mindful of time as well.
Rochelle just said there, tomorrow, I've been contacted by ITV today. They want to come and speak to moms about the living cost. So we're going out to a couple of supermarkets with ITV. So you should see us in the news. But if there's anyone here that want to be a part of that, or wants to talk to them, please let me know. My email is there, and I will pass on your details, because I think people are tired of Mums on a Mission. We need more people coming up. Yeah, we always, every year, twice, 3 times a year on the TV trying to campaign against something, and nothing happens because we need more people, more voices to come through.
Yeah.
So so anyone here that, want to have something to say, I've got a family that you really want to expose what's happening, my email is in it.
Thanks, Vanessa. That's really helpful. I think, we've got a really clear action here to bring people together to think about what we can do in Poverty Week to get that amplification going. So thank you. Sarah, did you have a question?
Yes, sorry. I came in a bit late, so sorry about that. So you might have said it before I came in, but I just listening to Vanessa and the conversation around SEN. I just wanted to know, because it is Poverty Week, but is there a main focus? Because sometimes we can have Poverty Week, but there's a focal point, and that could kind of branch out to how, SEN, people who are with living disabilities, how they deal with like poverty, and it could be quite a good campaign or a good insight to that, because it's clear that certain groups are more affected than others, and maybe highlighting that or creating more awareness in the Poverty Week may be something that we could do. So I didn't know if this is my first time working on the Poverty Week, if there is every year or something, there's some kind of focus point where obviously you can talk about other things, but there's a big focal point that we could kind of explore.
Thanks. It's a really good question, and not something I did cover. So I think there's a number of things to say. First, we tend to have a kind of one sort of clear theme, as you're suggesting. We do tend to sort of follow and fit in with the theme, the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, which I believe, Diana, you can correct me wrong, is a sort of continuation of last year's theme around looking at the dignity of people, how we uphold the dignity of people experiencing poverty. Yes, I think there'll be more detail to come, I think, on that, but that's the overarching theme. And then what we have done is tended to have different themes by days of the week, so that we have a different focus on different issues. So I hear what you're saying, that it's good to shine a light on some specific issues, and there are definitely, we know, all the data tells us that some groups experience poverty at a higher rate than others, and that discrimination plays into that enormously. So certainly in terms of thinking about the day-by-day themes, I think we could definitely think about whether there's a day that we wanted to kind of look at this issue because it's certainly something that's come out super clearly to us over the last year. And then we could coordinate activity around that day. We do try and can keep it fairly broad across the whole week, because I think what we want to do is bring as broad a group of people together behind these issues as possible. I know we've all probably had the experience of sitting in rooms where we feel like we're talking, preaching to the converted and talking to people who, largely agree with us. And I think one of the main objectives of Poverty Week is to bring as wide a group of people in as possible and to have these discussions in as many unusual places as possible. So that's also the reason for keeping it fairly broad. But I certainly think, in discussion with our Poverty Week champions, help us, we could think about the themes. So yeah, those themes haven't been decided yet. We would aim to do that in consultation with our champions, so that they can put forward what they feel the main issues are, probably from a long list they might come up with. But we would want to get a steer from them about what the groups should be, rather than Maddie and Emily and I sort of sitting down and deciding what they should be. So that will be a process. If you'd like to be involved in that, do let me know you'd like to do so. There was another question in the chat I did pick up about somebody asking what we would define as a small organisation. I think it's a fairly loose definition. We're certainly not talking about sort of organisations with a turnover under a certain amount, but I think it's just to say that we wouldn't not fund a bigger organisation, but we would want organisations who have more resources to put them into Poverty Week, so that we can concentrate the limited amount of funding we've got on organisations who really wouldn't be able to take part without £500 or something. But we would certainly welcome applications from everybody.
Mike also asked if we could circulate the slides, Catherine.
Of course, yeah, Mike, no worries at all. Yeah, and that's a good point as well, Georgina, about how we can share with this group more broadly about what's going on, so people can spot opportunities for collaboration. I will think about how we can best do that. It may be a sort of dreaded Google Drive or something, but I will consider what the best way of doing that might be. I don't have an answer right now, but it's a good point, and certainly something I'd like to see us do this year.
This reminds me as well, we're talking about this as an idea, so I think we're going to try it this year, and we may regret it, is to create a temporary WhatsApp group for the week. And so it would just be an opportunity for you to share pictures of what's going on, especially if there's organizations who are working together. You're able to show partnership and things like that. I would manage it. I would turn it on for a week. It would be consent based, so you'd have to give me your number and say you want to be a part of it, and then I would end it at soon after the week. So it would not be a long-term thing. But I've been a part of a few in the past where actually during the week it's quite nice if your head's down in your own organization event or output, it can feel a little bit isolating. So we want to help mitigate that a little bit by saying you are a part of something bigger, even if you're not able to attend lots of things or see it all on social media, but it will be managed, I promise.
Yeah. Emily, I just wanted to follow up what we were saying earlier about superhighways offering training support. So yeah, we're really keen to be involved again, or well, delighted to be involved again actually, and just helping sort of amplify the messages. And also if you want any support in terms of delving into your own data, so that you can use that against some of the external data. So obviously we'll be chatting to Emily about that, but just wanted to say we're looking forward to doing that. So thanks.
Thank you, Karen. That's lovely. You know, I think the support we got last year from Superhighways was fantastic, and I'm speaking for myself more than Maddie and Emily. Certainly was sort of well beyond what I could have ever offered in terms of understanding the ins and outs of the digital world and how we can use it to our best advantage. Georgina.
Brilliant, thanks.
Yeah, hi everyone. I just wanted to say thank you very much. You know, this one will be my second year joining. I joined it last year, and it was really, really interesting. So what we tend to use is the power of sport to highlight this issue that young people they are facing. And I'm really happy to join again this year, but I would love to have a little bit more information because last year was my first year, kind of really didn't get the whole sense, which is I did a good job. You know, we share some of our flyers, we highlighted the issues, but I would love to get more information about it, how to make it better and how to include other organizations as well, even faith organizations as well, how to partner with them. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely, Georgia. And we can definitely make sure that happens. I think you deserve a medal for having got on board probably kind of almost the latest and yet still making an enormous contribution and really throwing yourself into it at the last minute. So yeah, we can definitely start a bit earlier this year would be good, wouldn't it? Yeah. Cool. We're 1 minute away, so unless anyone else has got any questions, I think I'll bring it to a close, but this is, yeah, hopefully just the start of the conversation. And do get in touch, do let us know any thoughts that you're having and where we might be able to help make these things reality. But I'm really positive that we can make this, you know, it does feel like a stone gathering moss, and I think, you know, we can hope that this year the event will have a lot of impact, particularly in that pre-election year, and really hold resonance with decision makers and help to bring about change. So thank you all for coming, and I will see you all soon. It's really nice to see you all.
Bye.
Cool. Thank you.